The department clearly is a leader in innovation and novel technical approaches.
And their science is pacemaking.
Here's a department that for 100 years has literally led the field.
There's just no group with a better reputation or better accomplishment.
It's a privilege to have walked the same halls as some of the greats of neurosurgery.
I think from the start, this department has had a very strong commitment to academic development.
The things that we take for granted today in the practice of neurosurgery, many of them actually started here in St. Louis. I'm constantly aware of our history here in the department as I do my daily work, and I think it's part of what we all think about.
One of the remarkable things about our Department of Neurosurgery is that in its 100-year history there have been only 4 leaders.
Ernest Sachs came here in 1911 when neurosurgery really was just beginning as a specialty and really wasn't recognized as a specialty within medicine at that time.
In fact, he was the first professor of neurosurgery in the world. He was one of the early neurosurgeons who defined our specialty in terms of how to take care of patients with serious illnesses that had not been widely treated before that. Dr. Sachs was one of a handful of neurosurgeons who, with Dr. Cushing, basically established the organizational framework for our specialty in the early part of the last century.
Certainly he started neurosurgery from scratch here and laid the foundation for what we see here today.
Dr. Schwartz succeeded him. One of the things that he did was he trained a great number of people who would go on to lead our specialty from an academic standpoint.
And certainly as a student, which is the context in which I knew him, he was someone who was widely respected and really was a larger-than-life figure.
Dr. Schwartz had done his neurosurgery training in 1936 to 1938 as a neurosurgery fellow with Dr. Sachs. In many ways they were similar. They were both very demanding.
Branches of the choroidal, which suggest what? Well, it could be
hard taskmasters, perhaps a good way to describe both of them.
The rigorous training that characterized neurosurgical training, especially under Dr. Schwartz's tenure. People joke about it and fondly remember it in a lot of ways. He was a very tough guy, but he was doing tough things. He also, as a wartime surgeon, defined some of the fundamental concepts that we now use even in treating combat injuries in Afghanistan and Iraq.
I worked in pediatrics for a while, and pediatricians worry a lot about their patients, more than almost anybody else. Maybe that's why they're pediatricians. And they'd worry, and then Henry Schwartz would come over and he would do an examination and he would pronounce. And whatever Henry said, it was like gospel. Everybody relaxed, they knew what the kid had now, and Henry was in charge.
Then Dr. Goldring succeeded Dr. Schwartz, and he was a great educator as well.
Perhaps his most important clinical contribution was in the field of epilepsy surgery. He, being interested in electrophysiology of the brain, he was also very interested in the surgical treatment of patients with intractable epilepsy or intractable seizures. And he developed a method of mapping the functions of the brain with a patient under general anesthesia.
As always, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. And I think that some of my work is a direct offshoot of things that Sidney Goldring started to do. He was one of the first people to bring a computer in to analyze brain activity when the first computers were coming out in the 70s.
And his approach, for example, to the treatment of seizures, neurological surgery treatment of seizures, was really pioneering. And to this day, it is an approach that is used.
He was one who really did reach out and collaborate, and of course the joint Department of Neurosurgery and Neurology that existed for a period of time was really during his period of leadership.
One of the things he did was to start the Center for Higher Brain Function, which was funded by Mr. J.S. McDonald, and really helped to fund research in the neurosciences. When you start something good, the way Sid did, if that persists on and on,
Dr. Dacey's legacy has really been to expand the breadth and depth of the program and really reach out to other areas of the university and beyond.
From the time I started till now, the department has grown incredibly. It's almost doubled in size. We still have our own identity, and certainly Ralph has contributed tremendously to that identity.
He is a wonderful surgeon, leader, father, family man. Everything about Ralph has been so tremendously impressive.
He's a natural clinician, he's a natural teacher, he's a natural researcher, and he's a natural leader of people. He recruits people with the same qualities because he knows about those qualities and their importance.
Talent follows talent. That's one lesson that I've learned in my career in academic medicine. And Dr. Dacey was able to recruit Dr. Park to come to St. Louis. And together their leadership has developed our neurosurgery program into being a marquee program at St. Louis Children's Hospital.
I think it is his commitment to research, particularly applied research, translational research that actually helps human beings.
In terms of its scientific reach and interest, he has certainly focused on the processes by which innovations actually reach patients.
We've been very, very fortunate to have a great partner in Barnes-Jewish Hospital over the years.
We're one of a few hospitals in the country, certainly internationally, that has an intraoperative MRI, and that was the vision of Dr. Dacey and the neurosurgery team. We also can provide unbelievable care to patients that have spinal disease or spinal deformities.
One great advance we've had in the skull-based surgery area is our collaborations with our ear, nose, and throat colleagues, our increasing use of the endoscope, our ability to treat larger and larger, more complicated pituitary tumors, and other skull-based tumors.
The Center for Innovation in Neuroscience and Technology really seeks to build bridges across kind of our department as well as engineering across, again, the physical sciences most broadly speaking.
We have a terrific children's hospital, and Dr. Park came and built that division over many years.
We could do this because we have St. Louis Children's Hospital. All the health care is very interrelated, interconnected. So any service cannot provide the best care or cannot be the best service without other good services at the hospital.
The quality of care is outstanding. The patient and family experience is really remarkable.
Incorporating sound technical and educational principles into the training of tomorrow's neurosurgeons have been the things that I've really felt have been the most important parts of my career.
A lot of our effort here is spent ensuring that our residents have the best experience possible.
They have a tradition of teaching the next generation of physicians who become academic neurosurgeons and then become teachers themselves.
The long track record of preparing and training the future generation of neurosurgeons and in particular neurosurgical leaders obviously is a big part of this program. I feel very privileged and honored to be able to help direct that program.
The faculty, I think, view the residents as junior colleagues and treat us as future neurosurgeons that need to be trained in the art and craft of neurosurgery.
The faculty are very committed to the residency.
Every attending that I've had the opportunity to work with, when you're either presenting a patient to them or describing a clinical change, they take the time to at first kind of evaluate and investigate how much you understand about what's going on, and then they take the opportunity to then teach you or correct you.
When you're done here after your 7 years, you know that you're going to be a competent neurosurgeon no matter where you go, and there won't be any holes in your training.
The neurosurgery program and Barnes Jewish Hospital together are recognized as not only regional and national leaders, but also international leaders in the field of neurosurgery.
Due to many of the innovations that have developed here in our Department of Neurosurgery, there are new approaches and opportunities for patients that just wouldn't be available anywhere else.
If we can understand how the brain is encoding information, we can do a better job of identifying the critical zones to avoid those during tumor resection.
What I think that's going to do is allow us to do surgery more safely, faster, more efficiently, and have it be easier on the patients. Another area is the work that is being done by Dr. Zipfel as part of his collaboration with the Hope Center and the Department of Neurology.
In terms of some of the work I've been doing with subarachnoid hemorrhage and vasospasm, has gotten to the point where we're starting phase 1 clinical trials utilizing PET techniques for evaluating hemodynamics as well as the angiography to test some of those agents in humans, which I think is real exciting that we've, during my short time here, we're beginning to translate from the bench to the bedside already.
The Gamma knife is a very effective and important part of what we do for patients.
It's been very useful in treating patients with metastatic cancer to the brain. We've used it to treat patients with trigeminal neuralgia.
More recently, we added the intraoperative MRI suite at Barnes Jewish Hospital. This is one of the most sophisticated operating rooms in the world for neurosurgical procedures. The work that Dr. Park's done on selective dorsal rhizotomy has been extremely important for taking care of children with cerebral palsy.
The team of Drs. Park, Leonard, Smith, and Limbrick are unsurpassed in this country.
I think we're going to continue on in the traditions of the other leaders of the department in terms of continuing to do good things here.
I think the department will continue to grow in impact.
I think the future is very bright from the standpoint of advances, and we're right on top of it.
So I think we have everything we need to continue the strong tradition that's been built up here in the last 100 years.
I'm confident this department will remain strong, remain a premier program.
I think the department is going to continue to be a leader in innovation, a leader in education, and a leader in providing excellent clinical care to people in our region.